All right, if you're gearing up for the NMLS exam, you've probably stared at the federal laws section and thought, whoa, that's a lot. And you're right. But here's the good news. We're going to cut through the noise and really focus on the big three, the absolute must-know consumer protection laws that you'll see on the test and use every single day as an MLO. Let's dive right in.
So, here's our game plan. We'll start with a little trip back in time to the Wild West of lending. You got to know why these laws even exist. Then, we'll meet our three main characters: TILA, the truth teller; RESPA, the rule setter; and ECOA, the equalizer. And to make sure it all really sinks in for the exam, we'll finish with a quick comparison of all three.
Okay, so picture this. Before the 1960s and 70s, trying to get a mortgage was, well, it was a mess. There was no standard playbook. Lenders could pretty much do what they wanted. You'd get quotes with hidden fees, weird terms, and information that changed at the last minute. It was almost impossible for an everyday person to actually compare loan offers fairly or even know what they were truly getting into. It was confusing, and frankly, it left a lot of room for people to get taken advantage of.
Right. So those are the big questions, aren't they? How do you take this complicated, chaotic process and make it transparent, predictable, and most importantly, fair for everyone? Well, that's exactly what Congress set out to do. Their answer came in the form of three huge, game-changing laws. Let's get to know our first protector.
First up is the big one, TILA, the Truth in Lending Act. And for the exam, you absolutely have to remember its other name, Regulation Z. TILA's whole job, its entire reason for being, is right there in the name, truth. It's all about forcing lenders to lay all their cards on the table and show you the real, complete cost of borrowing money. So you, the borrower, can actually compare loans apples to apples.
So how does TILA pull this off? It zeroes in on three main things. 1, the total cost of credit. 2, how that credit is advertised. And 3, and this is the big one, the APR. The annual percentage rate is TILA's secret weapon. It's the one number that bundles up not just the interest rate, but also most of the fees into a single percentage. That way, you're not just looking at a low interest rate, you're looking at the total cost of the loan over a year. It's the ultimate truth teller.
Okay, speaking of advertising, let's pause here. If you're studying for the NMLS, you need to circle this next part in your notes with a big red pen. TILA is super strict about advertising, and it introduced this concept that you will be tested on. It's called triggering terms.
So what's a triggering term? It's pretty straightforward, actually. If an advertisement for a loan uses any specific number, like 20% down or monthly payments of just $500, that number is a trigger. It pulls the trigger, and now the lender is legally required to disclose a whole bunch of other information right there in the same ad. We're talking the APR, the loan term, the whole shebang. It's TILA's way of stopping that classic bait and switch where they lure you in with one shiny number but hide all the not-so-shiny details.
Now, TILA has another superpower, and it's called the right of rescission. Think of it as a get-out-of-jail-free card or a 3-day cooling-off period. Now, this is key. It does not apply when you're buying a house. But if you're refinancing your primary home or getting a HELOC, TILA gives you a 3-business-day window to change your mind and cancel the whole thing. No reason needed, no penalty.
So when does that 3-day clock actually start ticking? TILA is super specific about this. The clock doesn't start until all three of these things have happened. The note is signed, the TILA disclosure is delivered, and the borrower gets 2, not 1, but 2 copies of the notice explaining their right to rescind. It's only after the very last of those 3 things happens that day 1 begins. Oh, and here's a pro tip for your exam. When TILA says business day for rescission, that includes Saturdays. That trips people up all the time.
Okay, so TILA's got us covered on the truth about the loan itself. But what about the closing process? You know that whole storm of title fees, appraisal fees, and all the other costs that pop up at the end? That's a different beast entirely. And that's where our second protector, RESPA, steps in. The Real Estate Settlement Procedures Act, or Regulation X, is our rule setter. It's here to bring order to the chaos of closing.
RESPA basically has 2 big jobs. Job number 1, eliminate surprise fees at the closing table by requiring lenders to disclose all the settlement costs up front. No more sticker shock. Job number 2, and this is a huge deal, is to outlaw kickbacks. You can't give or take anything of value just for referring business. So your loan officer can't get a little bonus from a title company just for sending clients their way. The idea is that referrals should be based on good service, not on who's lining whose pockets.
And RESPA does this by laying out a very clear roadmap of documents for the borrower. It's like a journey. First, you get the Home Loan Toolkit. It's like the official guidebook for the whole process. Then comes the loan estimate, which is your preview of all the costs. If your lender owns part of the title company they're recommending, they have to give you an affiliated business arrangement disclosure. It all leads up to the grand finale, the closing disclosure, where all the final numbers are locked in. And RESPA's job isn't even done then. It keeps an eye on your escrow account every single year.
Now you've got to know where RESPA applies and where it doesn't. Think of it as a RESPA's playground. It covers most home loans for residential properties, we're talking 1 to 4 unit buildings. But it doesn't play in the commercial real estate sandbox or on large farms over 25 acres, or with vacant land. And temporary loans, like bridge loans? Nope, RESPA doesn't cover those either. Knowing this scope is super important for the exam.
All right, we've got truth with TILA and clear rules with RESPA. But what about the most basic principle of all, fairness? Our third and final protector tackles just that. The Equal Credit Opportunity Act, or ECOA, also known as Regulation B, is the great equalizer. Its entire purpose is to make sure that every single applicant gets a fair shot at getting a loan, period.
And when ECOA says it prohibits discrimination, it means it. The wording is powerful. It's about any aspect of a credit transaction. Think about that. It's not just about whether you get approved or denied. It covers everything from start to finish. The way a loan is marketed, the questions you're allowed to ask on an application, the terms you're offered, every single touch point has to be free from discrimination.
So what can't a lender base their decision on? ECOA lays out 9 protected classes. You can't make a decision based on someone's race, religion, sex, or national origin. And here's some that might surprise you. You can't discriminate based on age, as long as they're old enough to sign a contract. You can't discriminate based on marital status, so you can't treat a single woman differently than a married man. And a really important one, you cannot discriminate against someone because they receive public assistance income, like Social Security. If the income is stable and likely to continue, it has to be treated just like any other income.
Now, discrimination isn't always a guy with a sign saying, "We don't serve your kind." It can be much sneakier. You've got overt discrimination, which is exactly that. It's obvious and in your face. Then there's disparate treatment. This is when you treat 2 applicants who are basically identical on paper differently. Maybe you offer one a worse interest rate just because of where they live, but the one that really gets people is disparate impact. This is when a lender has a rule that seems totally fair on the surface, like we only make loans over $250,000. But in practice, that rule ends up harming a protected group way more than others. The intent might not be to discriminate, but the effect is, and that's illegal too.
ECOA doesn't just set principles, it sets deadlines. And as a future MLO, these dates are your responsibility. Within 3 business days of getting an application, you have to tell the applicant they have a right to get a copy of their appraisal. Then you've got a hard 30-day deadline to give them a decision, approved, denied, whatever it is. And if you deny them, they have 90 days to ask for that appraisal, and you have another 30 days to get it to them. These timelines are not suggestions. They're the law. And here's another one of those quirky little facts that is perfect for an exam question. How long do you have to keep ECOA-related records? Not 2 years, not 3 years, it's 25 months. Is a weirdly specific number, right? And that's exactly why you need to remember it. For 25 months, you got to keep that paper trail, just in case regulators come knocking to make sure you've been following the rules.
Okay, that was a lot to take in, I know. We've met TILA, RESPA, and ECOA. Now let's put them all side by side. This is your ultimate study guide, the cheat sheet that's going to help you keep them straight when you're sitting for that exam.
All right, let's really drill this down. TILA is Reg Z. Think T for truth. It's all about the truth in the cost of credit, which you see in the loan estimate and closing disclosure. Next, RESPA is Reg X. Think X for expenses at settlement. It's all about disclosing those settlement costs and Xing out kickbacks. And finally, ECOA is Reg B. Think B for be equal. It's about stopping discrimination and making sure everyone can be treated fairly. And it's got that weird 25-month record rule. TILA for truth, RESPA for settlement, ECOA for equality. Got it?
Look, as you're cramming all these regulations and record retention dates, it's easy to get lost in the details. But I want you to remember this. These aren't just abstract rules you have to memorize for a test. This is the bedrock of consumer protection in our industry. These laws represent fundamental rights, and when you become an MLO, you're not just a salesperson. You are the gatekeeper, the person on the front lines responsible for upholding these rights every single day.
So I'll leave you with this question. As a future mortgage loan originator, Which of these are you going to champion? Are you going to be the fierce advocate for transparency that TILA demands, the stickler for procedure and fairness that RESPA requires, or the unwavering champion for equality that ECOA embodies? The real answer, of course, is that a true professional is all three, every day, with every client. Good luck on that exam. You've got this.